My name's Professor Martyn Hook. I'm the Dean of the School of Architecture and Urban Design at RMIT, and I'm also a member of the executive of the Urban Futures Enabling Capability Platform, which, for those of you who don't know about our ECPs, is an elaborate way of describing how researchers across RMIT work together around ideas of urban futures. And also, similarly, we have a series of other ECPs in other areas. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the people of the Woiwurrung and the Bunurong language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, on whose unceded lands the university does its business. RMIT University respectfully acknowledges their ancestors and elders past and present, and RMIT also acknowledges the traditional custodians of their ancestors and the lands and waters across Australia where we conduct our business. Thank you all for coming along today. I hope that many of you have been enjoying the delights of Melbourne Design Week, which has been massive this year. RMIT's been involved with 53 different events, and this one is almost the last one that I have to go to, at least. There's a few more coming up. One of the things that we wanted to do, we've been in discussion with the NGV around some of our research and how that might relate to things that the NGV is interested in terms of developing its program in a regional context. And through conversations with the Senior Curator of Architecture and Design, Ewan McEwen, we discussed the idea of having a symposium of some form that would begin to look at high-speed rail to the regions and to really draw on our research that we're doing at the moment through the Centre for Urban Research in particular, but also throughout the Urban Futures ECP, just in terms of looking at what the consequences of high-speed rail might be. To shift away from the train itself and actually start to look at what might the train facilitate. In that context, we thought it would be useful today to maybe discuss with a bias towards the idea of housing and land settlement, but also really to look at the ways in which, through our collaboration with New Haven and our platform that we share with them, Balance Victoria, to look at the ways in which we can understand what a shift in the population to regional Australia might do, and how we might look at working with regional communities to prepare them for the consequences of what this shift in population might mean. Obviously, I had nothing to do with the announcement that the Prime Minister made that's on the front page of the Herald Sun today, but it certainly draws attention to the idea that a faster rail, not quite high speed, I'm sorry, but a faster rail network in Victoria can begin to open up some real opportunities. And through our collaboration with Balance Victoria, we're looking at what they might be and presenting a series of papers through our website, actually beginning to interrogate perhaps some of the numbers around this, but also for us to look at what that might look like, where these opportunities might be sited. From our perspective, we think that there is an opportunity to recalibrate our regional centres and to perhaps shift them into forming new types of urbanism. Transport-orientated urbanism that privileges the pedestrian, that are walkable, bikeable, that develop communities that actually generate their own power, deal with their own waste, collect their own water, and really start to talk very differently about perhaps some of the consequences that the high-speed rail might bring. From our point of view, Geelong opens a really clear opportunity. If we start to look at the areas of North Geelong through to Coria, we see the opportunities there of a post-industrial landscape where we might actually start to understand what these new forms of community might be. And in today's discussion, we have several guest speakers who will be talking about housing provision through the Nightingale housing model, but also looking at ways in which this is currently happening in Europe and the US, and beginning to look at how we might start to rethink perhaps a third way of occupying our land, and really be looking at ways in which living might become far more sustainable, and our focus around the generating of communities that perhaps are far more meaningful to a 21st century existence rather than being driven by models that are formed in the 18th century. So today we'll also have a conversation at the end we have some people in from ACOM and really beginning to look at perhaps an overarching strategy, but really beginning to unpack some of the economics that might be behind these agendas. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Patrick McNamara, former Deputy Premier of Victoria, who is a key member of our board at Balance Victoria and has really been involved with us around the high-speed rail conversations for quite some time, almost 3 years. So I'll invite Patrick to the stage to share some of his